The chamber smells like copper and fear. You sit across from him, the merchant. His wrists are bound, but you haven't touched him yet. You don't need to. He's already breaking. Please, he whispers. I'll tell you everything. You don't respond. You never do. Not at first. You lean forward, just slightly, and you watch as the color drains from his face. They call you the soul breaker, and they're right to be afraid. You weren't always this. Once you had a name, a family, a childhood that might have been ordinary, filled with the small joys that children take for granted. Warm bread, summer rain, the sound of your mother's laughter. But the kingdom doesn't need ordinary. The kingdom needs weapons that think. You were 7 when they came. Not soldiers, not raiders, specialists, talent scouts for something far more specific than an army. They moved through your village with quiet purpose, examining children the way farmers examine livestock at market, looking for something most people couldn't see. Intelligence, yes, but also detachment, a certain quality of stillness, an emptiness in the eyes that suggested the self wasn't fully formed yet, making you moldable, shapeable, breakable, and rebuildable into something entirely new. They found it in you. Your mother screamed when they took you. You remember that, or you think you do. Memories from before are like smoke now. The harder you grasp, the faster they dissolve into shapeless gray. You remember her hands reaching, the sound of your father's voice, rough with helpless rage, the taste of dust on the road as they led you away. Then nothing. The training compound was stone and silence. No windows, no sky, no sense of time beyond the rhythm of bells that marked your hours. No names. Names were the first thing they took. Identity was a weakness, they said, a handhold for the enemy to grip, a way for your past to drag you backward when you needed to move forward without hesitation. You were number 43, one of 60 children brought to the Citadel that year. By the end of the first month, there were 47. By the end of the year, 32. They didn't kill the ones who couldn't adapt. They simply removed them, sent them elsewhere, reassigned them to lesser purposes. You never asked where. You learned quickly that questions were a luxury you couldn't afford. Curiosity meant attachment. Attachment meant weakness. Weakness meant removal. The training was surgical, methodical, terrifyingly precise. They broke you down into components, stripped away sentiment, attachment, and the childish belief that kindness mattered or that fairness existed. They taught you that morality was context-dependent, that loyalty to the crown superseded all other bonds, that your body was simply a tool and pain was just information. Then they rebuilt you into something sharper, something without edges that could catch or snag on empathy. Pain tolerance. First your own, learning to control your breathing through broken fingers, to smile through burns, to remain absolutely still while needles pierced your skin in places that made your vision whiteout, then learning to inflict it with precision, understanding the difference between pain that incapacitates and pain that clarifies, between agony that makes someone retreat and discomfort that keeps them present, aware, and talking. Psychological manipulation, the architecture of fear. How to read the microscopic tells that revealed what someone truly valued. Their micro-expressions when certain topics arose, the way their voice changed pitch when they lied, and the direction their eyes moved when they accessed different types of memories. You studied anatomy not to heal, but to hurt efficiently. Philosophy is not to enlighten, but to dismantle someone's moral certainty. History is not to understand the past, but to weaponize shame, legacy, and the stories people told themselves about who they were. By age 12, you could make a grown man confess to crimes he didn't commit, just to make you stop looking at him with those empty, knowing eyes. By 15, you had no name at all, no past, no future beyond service, only a title, Soul Breaker. They gave it to you like a medal, like an honor, and you wore it like a burial shroud. People misunderstand what you do. They think you're an executioner, a torturer, Someone who trades in blood and broken bones, who leaves prisoners screaming in dark cells. But that's crude, wasteful, the work of amateurs. Anyone can hurt a body. It takes no skill to make someone scream. Pain is a blunt instrument, and blunt instruments dull quickly, become predictable, lose their power. A person in agony retreats inward, away from you. They stop thinking clearly, stop calculating consequences. Their world narrows to nothing but the overwhelming sensation, and they'll say anything to make it end. Truth or lie, it doesn't matter to them anymore. That's useless to the kingdom. The kingdom needs actionable intelligence, verifiable information, names, locations, connections, plans. They need prisoners who can think clearly enough to provide details that hold up under scrutiny. Who can draw accurate maps? Who can explain complex conspiracies without contradiction? So you don't start with pain, you start with presence. You enter the room and you sit. You don't speak. Don't threaten. Don't explain what will happen if they refuse to cooperate. You simply exist across from them and you let them feel the weight of what you are. Because fear is a contagion. It spreads through the nervous system like frost through water. And you've learned to watch it happen in real time. The elevated pulse, you can see it in their neck. The shallow breathing that makes their shoulders rise and fall too quickly. The way their eyes keep darting to you, then away, then back again, unable to look, unable to stop looking. The way they swallow repeatedly, their mouth gone dry. The minute trembling in their hands that they try to hide by gripping the chair. You give them silence, and in that silence, their imagination does the work for you. They've heard the stories. Everyone has. The stories that circulate through prisons and taverns and noble courts and whispers. The rebel commander who gave up his entire network after one conversation with you. Not a mark on him, but he wept for 3 days afterward and never spoke again. The spy who carved information into his own arm with a nail just to hand it over faster, convinced you were reaching into his mind to pull it out. The noblewoman who betrayed her husband, her children, her entire bloodline, then threw herself from the tower before dawn, all without a single mark on their bodies. That's the art of it, the terrible poetry. You make them believe that resistance is futile, that you already know everything. You're simply giving them the courtesy of confession, that you've broken 1,000 prisoners exactly like them, and none, not one, has ever succeeded in withholding information. That cooperation is the only path that doesn't end in absolute dissolution of self. And once they believe it, they break themselves. You just watch, bear witness, occasionally guide them back on track when they start to ramble or lie. Sometimes you'll touch a tool, pick it up, turn it over in your hands like you're considering. That's usually enough. The anticipation does more work than the implement ever could. Sometimes you'll ask a question you already know the answer to, just to see if they'll lie. When they do, you'll tilt your head slightly, let disappointment flicker across your face. Let them understand they've made a mistake. Let them rush to correct it, to prove they're being honest, to give you something more valuable to make up for the deception. You are a mirror that reflects their worst fears back at them, a void into which they pour their secrets because silence from you is more terrifying than any words could be. The masters at the Citadel called it the unburdening. A perverse mercy, you're allowing them to shed the weight of their secrets, to empty themselves of the things that might damn them further. By the end, most of them are grateful. That's the worst part. They thank you. They don't say your name. In the castle halls, servants turn their faces to the wall when you pass. Nobles find urgent business elsewhere. Even the guards, men trained to stand against cavalry charges and siege weapons, shift their weight and avoid your eyes. You are a ghost that breathes. The stories have grown beyond you now. Exaggerated, warped. You've heard the rumors, that you can pull thoughts directly from minds, that you've never failed, that prisoners beg for execution rather than face you, that you feel nothing at all, that they carved out your humanity in the Citadel and replaced it with something colder. Some of it is true. Some of it you've encouraged. Reputation is a weapon that works from a distance, but the isolation is absolute. You have no friends, no confidants, No one who looks at you without that flicker of primal fear in their eyes. Even the king keeps you at arm's length, useful but never close, never trusted. You eat alone, sleep alone, exist in the spaces between other people's lives. Sometimes you stand in the castle gardens at night, watching nobles laugh at banquets through distant windows. You wonder what that feels like. The ease of it, the casual intimacy of people who aren't weapons. Then you turn away, because wondering is dangerous, and you can't afford to be anything but what they made you. Then she arrives, a prisoner. Treason, they say. Conspiracy against the crown. The evidence is circumstantial, but the king wants confirmation, and that means they bring her to you. She's younger than most, maybe 19. Dark hair, calm eyes. Too calm. You begin the way you always do. Silence, presence, the waiting game that breaks even the strongest wills. But she doesn't break. She sits across from you, hands folded, and meets your gaze without flinching. No fear, no anger. It's just observation, like she's studying you the same way you're studying her. You don't want to do this, she says finally. Her voice is quiet, not pleading, just stating fact. You don't respond. Never respond first. I can see it, she continues, in the way you hold yourself, like you're carved from ice, but the ice is melting from the inside, like you're exhausted. Something twists in your chest, something you haven't felt in years. You stand, walk to the table, pick up one of the tools, a small blade, barely sharp enough to draw blood. Pain won't work on me, she says, not defiant, just certain. And fear won't either, because I've already accepted my death. I made peace with it before I ever committed to this path. You sit back down. The blade rests in your palm. So do what you need to do, she says, but it won't change what you are, or what you're becoming. You look at her, really look, and for the first time in a decade, you're not sure what to do. That night, you can't sleep. Her words loop in your mind. You don't want to do this. A memory surfaces, unbidden, unwelcome. You're 6 years old. Your mother is teaching you to braid flowers for the spring festival. Her hands are warm. She's humming something. You can't remember the melody. You press your palms against your eyes until the memory fractures, but the feeling remains. The sun rises. The execution square fills with crowds. The girl is brought out in chains. She walks with her head high. The king sits in his viewing box waiting. You stand in the shadows, watching. She didn't confess. You submitted no report, no names, no conspiracy unraveled. The king's eyes find you across the square. Even from this distance, you can read his expression. Disappointment, calculation, the recognition that a tool has dulled. The axe falls. The girl dies without breaking. And you turn away. That night, you don't return to the citadel. You walk the castle ramparts alone, looking out at the kingdom you've helped maintain through fear and broken souls. Some weapons, once forged, can never be unmade, but they can choose to rust. In the morning, your quarters are empty. The soul breaker has disappeared. Some say you fled. Some say you were executed for failure. Some say you're still out there, hunting in the shadows, more dangerous now that you're freed from the king's leash. The truth is simpler and more complicated than any of those stories. You walked away from the only identity you've ever known. No name to return to, no past to reclaim. Just the vast, terrifying freedom of choosing who you'll become next. The kingdom will make another soul breaker. They always do, but you won't be there to watch. You carry the weight of every soul you've broken. That weight will never leave. But for the first time in your life, you're walking towards something instead of away from humanity. Even if you don't know what that something is yet, even if you never find it, the choice was still yours to make. And that has to mean something, doesn't it?